Seeing that we're favourites for Huijsen, well, that seems like the perfect place to start, LFC, my friend. So let's talk about that. So, story today said Liverpool look to have a significant advantage over Real Madrid in the race to sign Dean Huijsen. And lots of journalists talking about Liverpool's interest here. Unlike, let's say, Kirkes or Semenyo or other players at Bournemouth who they may not want to lose. Huijsen does, of course, have that £50 million release clause, and it looks like Liverpool and Chelsea are ahead of the queue, apparently. And look, we know Chelsea seems to have never-ending supplies of money, but there you go. Liverpool looking like front runners for a signature. And I'm going to tie this into the situation with Ibrahim Konate because a post from Anfield Edition and crediting Paul Joy said, new contract talks for Ibrahim Konate do not appear particularly advanced. How are we feeling about this? Because I just do get the feeling that we may see Konate sold this summer. Not that it's something that any of us would want to see happen, but again, let's be realistic about the situation we're in. 1 year to go on his deal. If they can find a breakthrough, like I've said for the past week, you're probably going to have to sell him. And Paris Saint-Germain, I'm sure, who need a centre-back, would be a willing buyer. Don't think Liverpool would see the full value of Konate there, but I would certainly expect them to get the money they paid for Ibu back and probably a little bit more. But for me, if we got rid of Konate and brought in Huijsen, I'm still on the selling Kwanzaa train, to be honest with you. I think we could do with somebody a little bit more well-rounded than Kwanzaa. Personally, just my take on it. I think it's crazy, decent age and has bundles of talent, said Pasky. I'm not sure which one that's in relation to, my man. If we're talking about Huijsen, brilliant age, 19 years of age, already Premier League tested, now a Spanish international. So for me, yeah, look, it would be a no-brainer. El Hero said Konate is better. Look, the problem with Konate is the contract situation. I don't think any of us will sit here and say we want rid of Konate. I certainly don't. But again, we do have to be realistic about it. If Liverpool and Konate can't seem to come to an agreement, then he has to be sold because we can't afford to run the risk of letting him leave for free in a year's time. So hopefully we wake up to news that it does get sorted. But when you've got the likes of Paul Joyce saying there's been no advancement in the negotiations, you've got Fabrizio Romano the other day saying that it was looking positive a few months ago, things went very quiet and it doesn't look like there's been any progress since. I don't know why. I'm sure you guys don't either. It'll either be down to a very big gap in valuation or maybe Paris Saint-Germain getting in Konate's ear. We'll have to wait and see, but I don't know what's going to happen there. Bad news, Joyce. No, it's bad news, Pierce. Joyce isn't always bad news. Joyce is just more blunt and to the point, which I actually like, to be honest. Eli Wood said, pre-injury, Ibu was a top 3 centre-back in the world. The set-piece goal versus Milan was crucial. Post-injury, he's been a shadow. So, if Ibrahim Konate's contract wasn't in the position it's in, I wouldn't even entertain a conversation about his future. If he had 2 or 3 years left to go, you know, this wouldn't be a topic for me to discuss. But the way his contract situation is, the interest of PSG in him, that's what has me concerned. That and I'm not fully convinced by Kwanzaa. What about Dean Huijsen? I feel like he's the one that we want at centre back. I feel like there's been lots of positive vibes from journalists. Nobody will say it's done yet because it isn't. Chelsea want them, Liverpool want them, Madrid's name has been mentioned, and a couple of others. I do think we would make the most sense for him because we'd still allow him to develop. We could make sure he gets enough game time. He'd get to learn off and beside the best in the business in Virgil van Dijk. Caught offside said Liverpool look to have a significant advantage over Real Madrid in the race to sign him. And, you know, you would hope he'd take a look at Chelsea and go, because that's a bit of a mess. And if they don't get Champions League football, which at the moment is looking very possible, I would again say bigger advantage than to Liverpool. And him and Kirkes, and I'm delighted. Absolutely delighted. If we brought in him and Kirkes, I'm over the moon. And then if we had to lose another centre-back, I think Hatter would be a sensible play because of the coverage he can give you in a couple of positions. Do you think Richard Hughes would be a difference maker for Kirkes and Dean? So, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say who told me this because I don't want to get them in trouble. But somebody told me that he had very little role to play in bringing Kirkes to Bournemouth. that was more on the manager than anybody else. So don't know, but obviously he was the sporting director, so he would have played some role in it. But do you know what baffles me? There's been so much positive PR over the past few weeks about Richard Hughes, mainly from our coach. And again, I'm going to argue, I don't want to give him a big pat in the back for getting 2 contracts for 2 players who were desperate to stay sorted. So for me, the jury's still out on Richard Hughes, and this summer transfer window is going to give us a real indication of how good he is. And if he gets it right, then he will absolutely deserve the plaudits. But I find it difficult to give him an attaboy for getting Virgil and Mo sorted out when they were desperate to stay, and seemingly they're both on 400 grand or upwards a week. I think, I think I could have sorted that deal if those were the numbers being mentioned.